I have maintained the threat classification register for 27 years. I say this not as a credential but as a confession of proximity. I am the one who decides what a species is called, and I was the one who called the humans manageable. The register is not a glamorous document. It does not announce wars or end them. It is a taxonomy, a living ledger of every species the Compliance Secretariat has formally assessed, ranked by potential threat to the broader compact, and filed under one of 7 designated tiers. Tier 1 is reserved for species capable of extinction-level projection beyond their home system. We have 3 entries at Tier 1. None of them have been active in recorded history. Tier 7 is the bottom, pre-contact, non-spacefaring, of interest only to cartographers and resource surveyors. Most species start there. The humans were filed at Tier 2. I made that assessment myself, with 2 colleagues now retired. The file was thorough. We had 17 survey passes, 4 long-range spectral analyses, and a recovered communications intercept. The Vethrani Compact's forward listening post had been sitting on for 11 years. The humans were spacefaring. They had faster-than-light capability, though limited in range by our standards. They had shown no expansionist intent, no incursion into neighboring sectors, no territorial claims filed with any recognized body, no contact with species beyond their immediate margin. Their weapons technology was advanced but not anomalous. Tier 2. Emerging capability, manageable posture, low immediate threat. I remember being satisfied with that assessment. It was clean. It fit the register's criteria at every column. The Vethrani Compact reviewed the file 14 months after I submitted it. They had their own survey data. They had resource interests in a band of 3 systems adjacent to the human margin. They requested a formal threat assessment review, which is their right under the Secretariat Charter, and I conducted one. My conclusion held. Tier 2. Manageable. They thanked me. They said nothing further about their resource interests. I filed the review and moved on to the next case in my queue. I did not know they were planning an incursion fleet until the departure registry crossed my desk as a routine notification 6 months later. 42 vessels, 3 combat designation classes, 11 support craft. I read the notification once and filed it. Compact member states are entitled to enforce their resource claims. The Secretariat's role is classification, not counsel. The humans were Tier 2. The Vethrani fleet was well within proportional response parameters for a Tier 2 species. It was not my decision. The return telemetry window opened on a morning I remember with uncomfortable precision. I was reviewing a Tier 4 file for a species called the halvan. Pleasant work, the kind that takes 1 hour and produces a result that will not unsettle anyone. My deputy placed the Vethrani notification on my desk without comment, which in itself was unusual. She is not a quiet person. The fleet had departed on schedule. The transit window was standard. The telemetry confirmed departure, confirmed approach, confirmed entry into the human sector's outer margin. Then the data column ended. Not redacted, not sealed. The transmission infrastructure had continued to operate. The relay beacons were healthy. The column simply stopped producing entries, because there was nothing left to transmit from. No distress signal. No emergency encoding. No final position log. The 42 vessels and their 11 support craft generated no debris field detectable at any relay station. The human sector produced no acknowledgement of engagement, no territorial violation notice, no communication of any kind. Nothing came back. Nothing left any record of stopping. I sat with that notification for longer than I should have. My deputy left the room. I understood why. The amendment process for the register is straightforward when a species changes. If they acquire new capability, I revise the tier upward. If they suffer a collapse, political, technological, existential, I revise downward, or close the file entirely under the concluded category. I have done both many times. The process has never troubled me. It is a data problem, and data problems have answers if you are patient enough to find them. I opened the human file and began working through the tier criteria from Tier 2 upward. Tier 3 requires evidence of active territorial enforcement beyond the home system. I had no opposition engagement data. The fleet's instruments recorded their own destruction without resolving a source, but the outcome of the incursion was consistent with active enforcement. I moved to the criteria fields and began typing. I stopped. The criteria asked for a mechanism. I had none. No weapon signature. No energy discharge. No propulsion trace of any intercepting vessel. The fleet's own data showed no object, no field, no force the arrays could name. I could not fill the mechanism field. I moved on. Tier 4 requires demonstrated capability for preemptive reach, strikes or deterrence actions initiated outside the species' claimed territory. I looked at the engagement data again. The fleet entered the outer margin. The data stopped. If there was a preemptive action, the fleet was already inside the human margin when it occurred. The criteria did not cleanly apply. I noted the ambiguity and moved on. Tier 5 requires evidence of multi-species coordination for threat suppression, the ability to organize external actors against a common threat vector. The humans had done nothing of the sort. They appeared, as far as any record showed, to have done nothing at all. The engagement data was entirely the Vethrani fleet's own. The humans had not filed any contact notice, not alerted any neighboring species, not requested any Secretariat intervention. They had not communicated. I could not apply Tier 5 criteria to a species that had produced no observable action. I sat with the open file for a very long time. The register has 7 tiers. I worked through all of them. Tier 1 requires active extinction level projection. I had no evidence of projection. I had evidence of cessation, 42 vessels and 11 support craft simply not returning. But cessation is not the same as projection, and the taxonomy requires me to specify the mechanism. I could not. The mechanism field was empty. The Tier 1 criteria require a mechanism. Here is the honest accounting of my problem. The humans had satisfied no tiers criteria at any column. They had produced no observable action. They had generated no opponent-side data. They had not communicated, not claimed, not demonstrated, not projected. The only column they filled was outcome, and outcome is not a criterion. It is a consequence. The register is not designed to file consequences without causes. A species that produces consequences with no legible cause is not a classification problem. It is a taxonomy failure. I am a careful man. I do not use that word lightly. The register has held for 430 years. It has accommodated every species this Secretariat has ever assessed. It is not designed to fail. I closed the tier-by-tier review. I opened the amendment form. In the amendment field, where I would normally enter the new tier designation, I wrote 3 words: inapplicable category. Reason: the register does not contain a column adequate to describe what the engagement data implies, and I will not fill a column inadequately. I moved the human file out of the threat register. The Secretariat's charter provides for a sealed annex, used in my experience only twice before, for species whose classification would cause more harm than order if published. The annex is titled simply, "Do not designate." I have never filed anything there. I filed the human entry there. The threat register is smaller now by 1 entry. It is, I believe, more accurate by that same measure. My deputy asked me, the following morning, what she should tell the Vethrani Compact if they inquired about the amended classification. They have resource interests adjacent to the human margin. They are entitled to a response. I told her to send them a copy of the amended file. The amendment field is 3 words. The destination of the entry is the annex name. I told her that was the complete answer, and that if the compact found it insufficient, they were welcome to submit a new assessment review request, and I would conduct one. She asked if I thought they would. I told her I did not expect so. The annex holds 2 entries now, and it is sealed, and the register continues. The taxonomy is sound. The register has not failed. It has simply been honest, for the first time, about the edge of what a category can hold. I do not know what the humans are. I know what they are not. They are not a tier. They are not a mechanism. They are not a consequence I can source, a capability I can measure, or a threat I can file. The most truthful thing the register has ever said about any species is the 3 words in that amendment field. I have been doing this work for 27 years. I expect I will continue. There are 619 open files in the queue, and they are not going to classify themselves, and the work is necessary, and I am good at it. I do not open the annex. I do not think about what would prompt a 3rd entry. I do not think that would be a useful direction for my attention.